Hi, thank you so much for being here. I'm Dayna Reggero, and I'm the director of the Climate Listening Project. And I am just thrilled to be with the filmmakers of Our Planet 2. You all, like the animal stars in this series, shine so bright. Your resilience and the skills, the vision, and the way that you showed the heartfulness of these animals in their survival is astonishing. And so, thank you so much. I'd love for you to introduce yourselves. Welcome.
Hello, my name is Nush and I'm a underwater videographer from Western Australia, and I live in Exmouth on the Ningaloo Reef. So super lucky to be surrounded by lots of beautiful megafauna. Myself and my partner Andre were always out filming all the crazy things that happen on Ningaloo. I'm still fairly new to the wildlife filming industry, but love it so much. Love getting out there and trying to capture as much wildlife as possible, especially in the underwater realm. And yeah, so happy to be here.
Hello, I'm Frederique Olivier, and I'm an Antarctic ecologist and marine biologist by trade. So did my PhD over in Antarctica and spent lots of time in the polar world. But I became a wildlife filmmaker about 20 years ago, and just been all around as well, like just being passionate about filming animals for conservation, really, to try to link people to the natural world and make them want to preserve it. So that's been my passion over quite many decades now, and just want to continue doing that.
Amazing. And I'm Andre Rerekura. Same as Nushi, underwater videographer, living in the Ningaloo, beautiful place, super lucky backyard. And it was amazing to work with all these guys on this shoot with the little crablets. It was an amazing experience.
Yes, the crablets. So episode 3 of Our Planet 2 on Netflix. And David Attenborough says, all life on Earth depends on the freedom to move. And wow, the movement in each shot that you all had. And so the crabs dancing, the underwater shots, Mama Crab slowly getting her baby snacks, all of these moments. Nush, how did movement and this process of going with the flow to be able to follow the story and capture the surprises of discovery in film things that's never been filmed before? What is that like for you?
Well, with the adult crabs, we were filming like 2 different parts. So I'm sure that Fred will agree that it was pretty massively long days, and we would go out, film, the crabs moving from the forest down to the coast, and then the spawning was at night. So you kind of up all day filming the crabs move down to the coastline, and then, up again at night to film the spawning events. But it's incredible to see this movement that they do from the forest down to the coast. And we were trekking to some very remote beaches with a lot of gear, but it was so worth it because you'd get down to these little remote beaches. One of the ones we visited was a spot called Mariel's Beach. And it was you had to walk through a little rocky cave and then get down onto the beach. And all of the adult crabs are sort of waiting there. And the whole rock wall was sort of lined with crabs. So it was a pretty amazing sight to see this Red Sea kind of flowing down to the ocean. And the nights that we filmed the spawning, I'll never forget it, because you're just down on the beach and there's just red crabs everywhere. The whole beach is covered. And, Fred and I and the producer, Claire, we were all down on the beach, and, you'd be standing there and a crab would sort of start climbing up your clothes and things like that. So it was a pretty wild experience, but one that I'll definitely remember forever, and amazing to see this huge movement of the animals.
Thank you so much. What an amazing experience, and thank you for capturing it so beautifully so that we could all see. I love how you were able to show such detail that not only, showed things in new ways, but it really showed, I think, these animals, as really being so intelligent and resilient and heartful, and in these new ways that they're having to survive climate impacts and other threats. And it really, I cried, so much. Andre, please, when you are immersed as being underwater, How are you handling, I know it's an emotional experience, right?
Oh, it's amazing. Like the amount of life that's in front of you, and the it's sort of, yeah. There's all you can see is just the Red Sea, all crabs. And you pretty much. I had shorts on, so I had to use hair ties to close my shorts up because they started going up your shorts, and you're just literally covered in them, and you can't. You get to the stage where you can't really move because you're just like covered in all these crabs. So you've got to kind of slowly shake them off, and yeah, you just want to take care of them, make sure you don't hurt any of them. But they're everywhere. It's really incredible.
You are one with the sea, one with nature. Amazing. And I felt it.
Probably still got one somewhere in my dreadlocks or something. Who knows?
Escaped the mama, thank goodness. So you know, another thing of this that I loved so much is this idea of capturing new discoveries, right? You know, new innovations in camera equipment or access to places. You know, Fred, what is it like to be able to capture these visuals that we've never seen before and be able to show people and be able to reach new people that might be able to ground them on our planet in a new way and inspire them for action?
So, like the biggest challenge of that shoot, I think, was one of my favorite challenges, which is like technically engineering some new ways of filming and putting together some contraptions that actually help getting the shots that tell the real story. And I think this shoot was one of the most challenging shoots I've had to do because of especially because of constant timing and the tides moving up, and then we have to put the camera gear in the water and then creep it up. But we have some really complex mechanized electronic systems like exposed to seawater constantly and trying to try and follow the baby crabs or the adult crabs as well, you know. And that was a constant challenge because of the weather or the tides, and so you just constantly, your mind's constantly really switched on to try and put together things that are going to work for the tiny amount of time, the window of time that you have to film as well, because the migration, it's over certain times of the day as well, so we had limited hours, so things are going to be really ready and working. And I mean, dealing with macro in motion in those non-lab conditions, because a lot of the macro work is often done and in some controlled conditions inside a studio, but this time that was in situ macro, so that was one of the biggest challenges of this shoot, I reckon.
Well, you know, when it comes to animal survival in this film series, we know that one of the most important things can be, you know, your pack. And so your team here is what really makes movie magic happen, I think, when the right team comes together. And so how did you all find each other? How did this team come together, Nash?
Well, I think we actually kind of all like sort of got brought on separately, but how I ended up on the shoot was you know, I just sort of started, like, you know, still early in my wildlife filming career, and one of my friends from school is also from Western Australia, is also in the wildlife filming industry, and she had been on a shoot at Christmas Island the year before and heard about this camera assistant role, and so yeah, I kind of got like linked up through her and applied for it, and yeah, felt super lucky to go. It was one of my first like sort of longer camera assistant roles, and so I was really excited about it, and then obviously got over there, met Fred. She'd just finished another shoot already, like on the island, so she was there for a really long time, and then for Dre, because we were over there and we had a very small team, so it was Fred, myself, and then the producer director Claire, so there was only 3 of us. And for the return of the babies, it was really great to have one more person. So Dre finished a job on Cocos Island, which is in the Indian Ocean territories as well. And so, yeah, he flew over for the week, and it was so lucky that he finished his other job and he'd booked to come for like Christmas anyway, because we all had Christmas on Christmas Island. And he didn't know if he was actually going to be working or not, but he had his kit with him. And it was just amazing that the day that he arrived was the day that the baby crabs returned. So it was good to like just have another sort of main filmer, and then I could camera assist for both of them. But that's sort of, yeah, how I ended up there. But maybe Fred, you can talk about how you ended up.
Oh, well, I ended up on Christmas Island because that's already done many shoots on Christmas Island. So I got crab holed instead of pigeonholed. But yeah, I was really lucky to return there. I just love the place. And even though the crabs are crazy, I just keep loving shooting them in different ways. And yeah, I was very lucky to have Noosh coming in because she was an awesome learner, and I could delegate to her and fully trust her that she could go and do some time lapses. And we needed so many people. Yeah. My previous shoot just the months before, it was just only the two of us running around crazily, but having more people to do this shoot because it's so time dependent and time critical. So it was great then to have Andre come and with the exact same camera and the exact same problems, but be able to have the housing and be underwater. And so we just did coverage on both sides, and that was super actually. I really enjoyed that as well. So we just it just came together really well.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, I wasn't too far away. I was just a one flight across from on another island, so went from one tropical island to another.
Perfect coming together, the migration from all over to make the magic happen. I'm so grateful. And so we are going to actually watch the adult crab portion now, and then we'll have an opportunity to watch the second half and also to have narration from y'all as well. So that's really exciting. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's watch.
Okay.
In November, an increase in the daily sunlight heats the Indian Ocean and kickstarts the monsoon. In its path lies Christmas Island. The rise in humidity it brings awakens a sleeping army. Christmas Island red crabs now live almost entirely on land. But to breathe, they still need moisture in their gills and the sea in which to lay their eggs. So they make an annual trek to the coast, as they have done for 200,000 years. Lately, however, a lot has changed. But help is now at hand. Local people have also built special bridges that allow them to cross the busiest roads at their own speed. And a network of subways guides them. They increase their pace for them to catch the high tide. In a single night, 4 million crabs reach the coast. Each female shakes 100,000 eggs into the surf. They hatch immediately and become free-swimming larvae. Most years, the vast majority are eaten or washed into the deep, and none return. But with luck, on the next month's high tide, they will be swept back to the island's shores.
Oh my goodness. All are amazing. Thank you so much for your beautiful, beautiful storytelling. I think I said it already in the beginning, but like, there's just this resilience that shines through in this that I've not seen in wildlife films before. And I really believe that it is coming from this film crew, this resilience that you all had to make this film happen. And it's just, it's so, I keep saying heartful. It's like, it's just got such love to it. Thank you so much. So we're gonna watch now with you all and have this narration. So we're gonna put David, we're not gonna have David right now, we're gonna have our expert filmmakers here to guide us through.
The monsoon. In its path lies Christmas Island.
Oh, I'd like to go back to the island already.
Rise in humidity
It's like Jurassic Park. You're just waiting for a dinosaur to walk out.
The little there he comes.
Yeah, these shots, like, you know, like you can see all the details of the little hairy legs and everything. It's so special.
Now live almost entirely on land.
Yeah, you guys work so hard. I remember talking to
But
Nushi
breathe, they still need
most
moisture in
nights,
their
and you
gills.
guys are working around the clock at this stage.
In which to lay their eggs.
Oh yeah, it was serious around the clock.
So they
Isn't
make
that
an annual
3
trip
hours
to the coast,
tonight?
as they have done for
Look
2,000
what it paid off. Like, you guys did such a good job here.
Lately, however, a lot has changed.
Yeah, it's pretty special on the island as well how, you know, you do have the intervention of humans with the,
But
you know,
help
the crab
is
bridges
not at
and
hand.
like, you know, people raking the crabs off the roads and, yeah, there is like a lot of people that care and respect for the crabs. Hopefully this sequence can inspire like more of that care for the crabs on the island, because obviously like they do still have obstacles, like if they don't go over the bridges and get caught on the roads, things like that. They do have a chance to be run over and things. So hopefully this film and this footage can inspire like more of that consideration for the animal
Increase
world.
their pace, so they must
Definitely.
catch the high tide.
100%.
Yeah, every crab migration is different, and every
A single night, 4 million
every
crabs
season
reach
that
the
I've
coast.
filmed there has been amazingly different. The crab numbers varying, or the dispersion of the crabs varying, the places where they go, and yeah, I think the Christmas Islanders, or the part of the Christmas Islanders who don't really care about crabs, I've got a lot to learn to actually really learn to respect the species. Yeah.
Definitely. Well, they're in their home, aren't they?
They're in
The
their home.
dancing in the water a bit there, I loved that.
Become a free swimming lodge.
That
Yeah,
was
the
so
baby-
crazy on that night. Like, Fred was up on the shoreline trying to capture like so much from, you know, there's just like this huge migration, there's crabs everywhere, trying to like swap between lenses. We had like a lighting system and we had to play around with the lighting so that it didn't look too bright. Like you wanted it to simulate moonlight a bit more than like sort of floodlights. And then I was trying to get some in-water shots with the GH5 Mark II, and I was lying in the water and I had crabs crawling all over me, like sometimes on my head, like spawning on my head, like putting their little claws up and shaking, and I was like, no, just do that in the water, you don't want to do that on me. And I was trying to like dunk my head to make sure the eggs like went into the water and stuff like that. But yeah, I was like, I'll never forget like this, there was like a moment on one of the spawning nights, I think it must have been the first one, because I hadn't seen a spawning event before, and I remember like Fred being next to me and she's got all of her gear set up, like standing like in the sand, and like you can barely move because there's just so many crabs, and I just remember looking at her and just like, it's just like the most wild view, like a human, like they're filming and then there's just like crabs everywhere. It's just so crazy.
Oh my gosh, the detail on the tiny little babies there, I can't even imagine.
Yeah, well, I think that was those shots were brought in from like another filmer on the island, I'm pretty sure.
No, those shots are mine.
Oh, those ones are yours. Are they from the
were-
day that we were?
That's good to clarify.
No.
Oh, sorry,
Those
I
shots-
didn't know if they were yours or Chris's.
No. Those shots were done on the last day and the last morning, and we actually made some in slightly more controlled conditions where we actually could collect water with eggs, but actually put it in a darkened container because it was impossible to film the tiny babies with a macro in puddles of water where the sea's moving, the crabs are moving, everything just becomes crazy. So we actually artificially created a dark pool of water and could backlit those eggs and do some of that. So it was another technical challenge, but we managed to get that. Yeah.
You just dunk the probe in through the top of the water?
Yeah, we just dumped the probe in, and there was like the density of eggs would be varying still, and so we had to just wait for the moments where we had the right eggs, and wait, especially because in macro, you know, your depth of field is so restricted, so you had to wait for the egg to come at the right time. So there's actually quite a few like shots in that for like minutes and minutes, and then you just pick the shot where the eggs are in the right plane for the focus. So it was really challenging. But great. We did it.
Yeah, I remember like you guys sitting on the beach, and there was just like a container, and then had the umbrellas and the lights in there, and like so good.
Amazing. So often it was really looking at it and thinking, wow, this is an impossible shot. How are they doing this? You know, so thank you for sharing that. What, you know, is there anything else that you want to say about that first part and just, you know, the memories and the moments, and in closing on that before we go to part 2?
No, it was very, very intense, that first part, because we had only a few days to actually create the story of an entire migration, because that migration actually takes a month before those guys' arrival for that shoot that we were doing. And so we were really run left, right, and center to try to get enough images of the crabs in movement on the island. But it takes actually quite a lot longer for those crabs to go from the very top of the island to get to the bottom. And then they go back up in a very short time. So we actually add a little bit of the going down, but mostly the going up, which is so much faster. That's why we worked nearly continuously for 4 days without any sleep. Yeah, it was crazy.
And I think one of the other big challenges is that the weather was quite difficult on some days. We had some like massive rain downpours, and because a lot of the roads are closed for the crabs, which is great, but it can make like getting to filming locations a little bit more challenging. And so on this one day, we had brought all of the gear down this really big hill to be ready for later that evening and afternoon, but we had this like huge rainstorm, and like Fred very luckily had brought this like big tarp, and we'd like set up this big tarp like in the forest trying to like protect all the gear, but it was just getting like really soaked because the rain was so heavy. So we had to call like one of the park rangers to like come and get us out and then allow us to bring the car down, like because there was luckily no crabs there yet. And so yeah, just like all those little things like that make filming like quite challenging, but was also quite funny like looking back.
Meanwhile, I was building little barrages to prevent the water from going on the kit, because I had my entire kit literally under that tarp and trying to deviate the water from it so we could continue shooting. It was hilarious.
Amazing. And predators and everything else that you all encounter in this wildlife filming journeys that you go on. Thank you so much for, you know, always putting yourselves and your equipment and all of it on the line every single time to capture the shots and to somehow make it where it's this months long or however long migration, and it's such a beautiful, tight, the movement that you are able to show and the details makes these tiny little minutes that we just watched, and now we're going to watch part 2 of how long this takes, but you were able, the way that you're able to so beautifully show it in such a short time is, it's amazing. So, all right, here is part 2.
It's Christmas Eve, and the shores of Christmas Island are bright red. Once in a decade, the ocean currents are just right for the crablets to return. And this is one of the biggest ever seen. Billions crowd the reefs. Bewildering the locals. They try to reach dry land in whatever way they can. They need to get to the forest from where their parents came and where they will be safe. Just 2 kilometers away. But their parents weren't the size of a pinhead. Now they shed their shells, changing their wetsuits for something in which it's easier to breathe. Ready. But before they've even left the beach, they are attacked by someone unexpected. Mother? Clearly, adult red crabs are not very child-friendly. Time to leave the beach, and quickly. That requires climbing the sea wall. As formidable as the skyscraper would be for us. Once at the top, they must creep through the town. But it's hard to keep a low profile when you're part of an army of several billion. The world is very, very dangerous when you're very, very small. So they need to watch their step. The forest edge. Safety is in sight. But it's too soon to relax. Yellow crazy ants, which eat crablets. Those that make it through are home for Christmas. They will spend the next 5 years feeding and growing before making the return journey to the sea and then producing little crablets of their own.
Oh my goodness, thank you so much. I love this episode so much. I cried already when I watched it the first couple of times, is why I'm not always bawling through all of our journeys here now. But what a special episode. So now we're going to watch it with you all, have the opportunity with the filmmakers to watch it and hear what you all have to say and some of your insights. So let's watch now.
Wow,
yeah, I remember with the Red Sea, the red carpet that arrived, like, you know, we were going in the mornings and afternoons to check if the babies had returned, because they don't often return, or like as in big numbers every year. And I will remember Fred and I down at the beach in the cove, and like just one day they were just there, just everywhere.
It's so cute when they've still got the little tails swimming around. And then you see the transition when they lose their tails and start turning into crabs.
Bewildering the
Oh, wow,
locals.
that's amazing.
This guy.
Yeah. A lot of the other wildlife
They can.
wasn't liking it. They were just taking over everything.
They need to get to the forest from where their parents came.
And
Yeah, the
where
challenge
they
was
were
to
safe.
really
Just
follow
2
the crabs,
kilometers
like
away.
having the emotion going, but you're dealing with such tiny things to try to put the equipment over them without squishing them, and then just doing because there's so many of them, and you want to isolate one of the individuals to make you feel closer to them. Like that was always hard to only have one of them in the shot. Yeah.
Blue eyes, when it's still small.
Yeah, and the babies are really, really, really cute. Like the first stage of the baby with blue eyes is cute, and then they turn into a mini crab, which is also very cute. And here becomes a meal for, which is terrible thing to show, like cannibalism. But that's really, it was great to be able to film that because it's nature. And so those baby crabs, there's so many of them, only a very tiny proportion of them are actually going to make it to adult stage. But the safety of the population lays in numbers, so there's always enough to then make the new generations, which was it was great to witness.
Just put the scale when it starts going over like man-made objects like this, and you can really see the perspective of how they own the place, you know, it's their place.
Yeah, and it's pretty wild to see, you know, like all the baby crabs just like coming over the front units in the cove, and like, yeah, everyone kind of to block the cracks under their doors, their front doors and everything to stop the little crabs going in. But yeah, it's just a wild thing to see. Just this like red carpet moving up the coast and through the houses and into the forest.
That's so good, eh? It takes you straight back there watching all this.
That was such a cool shot. You really do see with their eyes their little individual selves. Look at this guy.
Yeah, and then you see like the ants come, and yeah, they were, as you see here, like they were literally just pulling little crabs like up the logs and into their nests, and you felt pretty bad for them.
Yeah, the final ending, like following them in the leaves, was really, really interesting to try to make the shot you wanted to have the final crab disappear under the leaf, which is they're going back in the ground. So we want to finish the story like of the cycle. Yeah, and that was one particularly challenging shot because again the crabs don't read the script and don't do what he wants. So we spend a lot of time on that.
Yeah, there's a lot of pre-roll going on. And when you're in the forest there and they are starting to get a bit bigger, they get almost spider-like, and you're just getting inundated by them when you're trying to sit there, and you're just trying to keep telling yourself they're crabs, they're not spiders, they're crabs, they're not spiders, because it starts sort of like, it's a tiny bit creepy because there's millions.
They're similar. I feel you.
But it's so phenomenal to see. Like the island was just alive, full of life.
The red, I mean, the color, it's so beautiful. It's absolutely stunning to see it, and the individualness of each crab. I loved that. But the dancing in the water, you know, to the slow mama bringing that baby up to her mouth, you know, just the drama of it all was shown so beautifully in every single shot. And you all did just like, you know, such justice to these beautiful creatures. And I feel like what you said, like sticking to the script, sticking to the storyboard, you know, where really you all are discovering new, like, wow, I didn't even know they were gonna do that sometimes, right?
Oh yeah, there was plenty of new discoveries, and yeah, it was interesting to be deciding the fine line between sticking to script and spending like energy trying to get shots that might not be possible, when meanwhile there's other things that are super interesting and happening in front of us, and I want to turn the camera to that because this is also really cool, but the editors might not like it, you know, so you have always this kind of But yeah, in natural history, it's the discovery that matters. And to me, I just want to go and film new things and spend the time like being like amazed and filming those new things to share them, you know. And so with the crowds, there's plenty more to do. So I'd love to go back on Christmas Island and do some more, actually.
Oh, what a beautiful weaving of science and stories. And I just, you know, I really loved this episode so much. And I'm excited to watch all of your work now, even more. And what else would you like to say about this, you know, this second part, or this whole episode together, that's a special memory or a moment that you want to share? Nush, is there anything you can think that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I think, you know, especially when the babies came back, you don't get lots of time with them in that first phase where they're like the little blue-eyed babies like swimming around in the water, and they very quickly like come onto the shore. So I think what was really special was like those moments like in the water. For me, when, you know, Dre and I were like in these little rock pools and we're sitting there and we're getting like covered in little babies, and you're trying not to, you know, like hurt as many as you can, and so you're looking in the rock pools, and then that was when we sort of saw that eel that was like poking its head out of the hole and trying to like explore what the other animals are doing is really interesting. And so yeah, that's something I always definitely remember, like being in this little rock pool and Dre having to tie up his board shorts with hair ties because the little crabs are like going off his shorts, and yeah, I just like had only like shorts on as well, so you just get this like weird feeling of the crabs like all over you. And but just like other little things that are really special, you know, like when we were filming the babies returning to the forest, and you can't drive anywhere obviously, so we were all walking around and we were taking turns with the leaf blower, like trying to gently like blow the little baby crabs out of the way, and we had this trolley that would carry the gear with and like walk down to the forest. It's like all those little things that at the time like you don't actually realize those little things are kind of special, but where else in the world would you like have to blow little baby crabs out of the way so that you can like get gear somewhere to film them? And yeah, I think you know, that moment where, you know, Fred got those amazing shots of the mums eating the little baby crabs, like that is like a pretty like wild circle of life, that, you know, you're seeing that. So that was definitely like a very special moment as well. And you know, before Dre came, which we're obviously so happy that he came, but also really, really cool to like have a shoot that was 3 girls, because it was Fred, myself, and then Claire, the producer director. So yeah, that's like a pretty special thing to be like working with like all girl team for a lot of it as well.
Yes, we love that. That is so wonderful and important. Andre, Dre, what about you and this, you know, this beautiful episode that you all created? What do you hope that people watching it, you know, is there a moment that really stands out to you, or just a memory that you have that you hope sticks with others or inspires folks?
Well, I came into the second half of it, and I was just hearing the stories of the first part when the adults are going down to the shore, and it just sounded like crazy but amazing at the same time. And then to get the opportunity to come and join them, I was super excited about it. And then once getting to the island, it's such a unique and incredible island. Like it's literally like a Jurassic Park. And to land on the day and everything is just going mayhem because all the babies starting to hit the shore. And I think my favorite part was obviously we were using all the macro stuff and the probe lenses, and my eyes was set on the monitor so much I felt like I was in their world, because I could see them to full scale, and I just felt I could see all the details of these tiny babies, and just seeing all their little features, especially when they're in the water, and seeing this little tail like a little motorboat on the back of them swimming around like these beautiful little balls, tiny balls, but they're full screen sometimes, and there's these amazing blue eyes, and they're a bit transparent. They were just wicked, and they were so fast, and they were just millions. You just couldn't even understand what you were looking at. It was just amazing. And then to see them, the transitioning was like incredible over the few days. So they have these little motorboats coming in from the deep blue sea, and then latching onto a rock in the tidal mark, and then dropping this exoskeleton with their little motorboat, their little tail came off, and then they're turning into, you know, proper little crabs, and then they're off, and they're gone, and they're just the speed and you know, there's millions on the shoreline, and they're all gone the next day, and they're all up through the jungle, like the way they travel and how fast they move and how adapted they are for their environment. It's awesome. But the best thing was you're like one of those Honey I Shrunk the Kids, because you're looking through that monitor and through all the macro and the probe lenses, so you're down there with them. It's like you're in their world. So that was really cool to see that, be a part of it.
Amazing. I felt like you brought us there with you. It was so immersive, and you know, Fred, I'm so in awe of everything you've shared about the innovative ways that you figured out how to capture those moments and to make sure that we experience them. And this series, I loved it so much because it shows how these animals are having to be so resilient and figure things out and survive, and here you all are, you know, doing this very same thing and trying to show what they're doing, but exploring yourselves and figuring out how do we make this work so that we can all survive, so we can show, because they're important and their story is important, but it's also that we are all on, you know, our planet together. And so you did such a beautiful job of showing all of that connection of movement and these obstacles and these resilience, and to know that behind the scenes, a lot of people don't realize what all goes behind the scenes as far as being resilient and figuring out how to get each of these moments. What is, you know, you've shared already some of that, but what is a moment that you are just so proud of? You know, we got it, or we didn't expect to get it, or we tried so hard to get it, or we came up with a new way to get it?
I think the moment that was the most striking is trying to get the ants eating the babies. And yes, there was another sad predatory moment in the story of the crabs, but that's one of the big challenges that the red crabs as a species are facing, is the invasions of non-native species that actually literally really threaten, even though there isn't such huge numbers, those crazy ants actually are real threats, and they could knock down the population. So to be able to actually show that process in images was really, really special as well. So yeah, and we stumbled upon it once in one spot, but it was actually, even though the island's full of ants, it's full of crabs, it was very, very challenging to find a location to actually show that and be able to film it. So I reckon it's one of many moments. Yeah. And the other special things, other special thing that I wanted to say is that, like, just simply the fact that we got to be on the island when the babies returned, because many times I've been on this island and other cinematographers as well on different years, and the babies simply don't get to return. They disappear in the ocean, and we don't get to see any babies. So I think we were super lucky that we had this massive return and we could witness that amazing event. So yeah, super thankful for that timing.
I think it was it one of the biggest I've had for a long time?
It was one of the biggest returns. So we were really, really lucky because we had a few more days than average to be able to film as well. So it came on and went on and on and on. But it's like 9 days was awesome because we could continue filming. Yeah, so sometimes it's all over in a couple of days and not that many babies come, but sometimes there's no babies like the year before, which is why they sent us on the island again this year.
Well, now with climate impacts and changes to landscapes, you know, we don't know what's going to happen next, it seems like. And these animals, you know, not knowing what they're going to encounter was shown so visibly gorgeous and invited us in to ask more questions, you know, as a viewer of how can I help, or how can I, you know, learn more about this science of these invasive ants. And, you know, I mean, it really brought so many little other stories into these beautiful movement migratory stories. And thank you. You all did such an amazing job of everything. I mean, it really is so beautiful, and I'm so excited for everybody to see. So this is Our Planet 2 on Netflix, episode 3, mostly women crew. check them all out on social media and everything else, and do connect more. But we're so grateful to have this opportunity to listen with you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us. It's been great to actually refresh and look at it all and actually sit all together as well.
Have a look at the sequence since the edit room. Great.
Yes, please. Yes, watch party all 4 episodes, and then we'll reconnect. We'll have a party afterwards again. Meet back here, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So good to chat.